The forces within the slow zone came out here divided. Earth, Mars, the Belt, and the Rocinante, each with their own agenda. Now, at the end, they have divided into two factions divorced of all of that. Holden is convinced that the Miller Ghost is telling the truth, that powering down is the only way to get the station to relax and free them, as opposed to declaring humans a threat and wiping us out in one blow. Dr. Cortez believes the opposite, that the station is inevitably going to destroy the Earth, and only destroying the ring will prevent that. Each has used their belief to crystallize action around them, convincing others that their view is correct, and this action not only must be taken, but it is worth fighting for, that the stakes are too high to permit anything less. Thus you have the Rossi crew, Martians, the UN forces, and Paz loyalists on one side, and Cortez, Clarissa Mao, and Ashford's loyalists on the other. Now that is a severe imbalance, but given that this is home turf for the Belters, and the other forces were disarmed before being allowed aboard, this evens things out considerably. Ashford's forces are the first to spill blood, and that trend continues beyond what might be considered necessary. After all, one could make the argument that shooting someone who is armed, even if they're not immediately threatening, might be necessary under such circumstances. But Ashford begins to suspect, correctly, that Sam is on Bull's side and not his, and her stalling with the comm laser upgrades is to allow him to retake control. For Ashford, this isn't about saving the human race. It's about him saving the human race. It's about him proving that he was right all along. When that drug manufacturer was spaced by Bull, Ashford was enraged at what he felt was murder, even though the drugs were endangering the ship and crew, and such action was traditionally met with spacing, even when Bull went to great lengths to prove beyond all doubt that the man was guilty. To Ashford at the time, imprisonment was appropriate. Acting like the military of the Inners was appropriate. Now, instead of having Sam arrested as a possible saboteur to determine guilt or innocence and give just punishment, Ashford executes her on the spot, not for any crime save one, defying him, for which the penalty is death. Sam was beloved by the Belters and the crew of the Rossi, since she frequently handled their repairs, and Naomi had even bunked with her for a time. If anything proved that Ashford was on the wrong side, it was that. Amos, despite severe injuries, is prepared to join in the assault, and when told to stand at his post and protect Monica and Anna and the rest of Radio Free Slow Zone, he agrees but tells Holden, "None of this righteous man among the savages bullshit. Take Ashford down." This is all upsetting to Anna, who, as we've established, is practical. She sees the big picture. And what worries her in all of this is the human tendency that is on display here, that they are all crystallized into us versus them. And that is usually dangerous. Because this isn't a sports match where afterwards we'll shake hands with the other side. They have allowed their differences of opinion to escalate to violence, and violence to escalate to hatred. When this is over, they can't remain enemies. They can't keep hating. But the urge to do so, the insistence that it's right to do so, that my hate is okay, is a mistake. And however one wants to parse her views, there's one undeniable truth. It was hate that got them into this mess in the first place. Hatred drove Clarissa to frame Holden, to create the situation that compelled him to go through the ring to survive, for the fleets to follow, for the speed change. She was as convinced that her hatred was just as everyone else is of their own hatred right now, like an infection that has spread throughout this flotilla. Clarissa was patient zero for a condition that is going to spread throughout the solar system. And while it might be easy to dismiss that, Ashford's wounded pride is proof of how easily it escalates, so despising anyone who doesn't fall into line that he will not just kill, but indiscriminately kill. When Bull's forces attempt to knock Ashford's crew out on the bridge with increased levels of nitrogen, Ashford retaliates by taking Martian power armor that was confiscated for the duration of their stay and puts his own people in it to kill anyone that tries to stop them from taking engineering. And to expedite matters, stops the spinning of the drum. This repeats the inertial change disaster for everyone that's inside there, injuring and killing more people simply so Ashford can make everyone aware that he's the one in control. His is the power of life and death, and today he's decreed death because he hates his opponents that much. Cortez is aghast at this behavior, this partner of his in this cabal, and yet Clarissa can understand the man's behavior all too well when she thinks of her father. Clarissa watches some of what Anna says in the wake of this disaster, as the preacher's crying out for anyone to aid the wounded and help shut down the behemoth before it's too late. Clarissa contacts her, and soon it's a battle between Anna and Cortez for the soul of Clarissa Mao. Each offers their position on the right solution, but Clarissa points out that there's no proof for any of this, just being told to take things on faith, and she's not ready to do that blindly. So it comes down to who is coming down on the side of hate and who is coming down on the side of understanding. Naomi forgave her. Bull offered her a chance at life, and Holden was willing to spare her despite everything she'd done, while Ashford will kill for his own petty ego. Even their solutions reflect their approaches. Ashford wants to fight the ring station. Anna's forces want to show that they're no threat to it. Cortez had said that they looked the devil in the eye when they came through the ring. And yet, he will defend the behavior of someone who has done the very thing that convinced Cortez of that when Ashford stopped the drum, caused the exact same kind of suffering and death, and yet this time Cortez will turn a blind eye to it. Clarissa chooses to side with Anna, allowing Holden's forces in and personally sabotaging the efforts to fire the laser, choosing in that to finally put her hatred to rest. The one who started it is the one who ends it, because the plan does work and everyone is free to go home. However, Anna fears that the contagion has spread out of control, that anyone who escorts Clarissa back will ensure that she suffers an accident before they get home. The Rocinante is the only ship where the crew won't do that. Only problem is, they don't want her either. So she makes a deal. Tilly buys the Tachi from the Martians and gives it to Holden's group, ensuring that it would never be under legal threat again. Of course, other threats are only to be expected. Abaddon's Gate is the first novel where all 4 viewpoint characters are Earthers, with 3 of them choosing to work with the belt perhaps, but nevertheless, they're Earthers. It is, however, easy to see why. Clarissa is avenging her father, so she must be from Earth. And she must be recognized by Tilly, who must appeal to Anna, who must directly interfere with what Clarissa is doing. Therefore, Anna must be on the same ship. And because it's only logical that Clarissa would be on an Earther ship given her family's connections, Anna must therefore also be on an Earther ship. As for Bull, he has to simultaneously be fully qualified to take control of the behemoth, while simultaneously not have it be foolish to overlook him for a command position. Thus, making him an inner is the only way to explain that politics requires that it be Belters in command, even if Bull is more qualified to be there. If Bull was Martian, though, the idea of him gracefully accepting that from Fred Johnson would be a lot harder to swallow than if they were old friends from Earth, as is the case here, especially with the turmoil of late between Earth and Mars. Also, it speaks to the cultural differences between Mars and Earth. Martians are devoted to seeing their generations-long terraforming project completed, while Earthers live in a society without direction and limited means for self-determination. This is likely the reason the Mormons were interested in building the Nauvoo in the first place. There was no place in the solar system for them. The belt is too dangerous, the Martians are fixated, and Earth taxes families to death. Only by leaving the system behind would they have the chance to make a world suited to their own beliefs. It's actually a bit funny that the Mormons, who have run into conflict with society because of polygamy, want to leave even when polygamy has become a societal norm. Thus, the transformation of the Nauvoo into the behemoth fits in with the religious overtones of the book, with its iconography throughout the OPA's flagship. With the very name Abaddon is a reference to Judeo-Christianity. The major themes of the work are around the nature of forgiveness and what it is like to confront something far beyond our power or comprehension. Even the solution is to metaphorically get on one's knees and pray to a higher power to show mercy upon them. Abaddon's Gate nevertheless casts a religious leader in both a hero and villain role, while at the same time making clear that being a villain is only in the sense that he has chosen the wrong side, made the wrong choices, justified evil to himself, and once repentant, welcomed back with open arms, again in keeping with forgiveness. Even Holden's demonstration of hubris ties in with the theme, as in ancient Greek it wasn't just arrogant pride, but even a challenge to the gods themselves. Holden lamented Miller's appearance while also being arrogant enough to presume that he was in some way special. Like many such Greek tales, Holden presumed that he could enter the doorway into hell and emerge unscathed, and his people nearly paid for that with their lives. And of course the presence of Miller himself, living on even after death and serving as a messenger from the great and powerful beings above, fits in with that. But while these are the themes, and certainly reflected upon by the characters, Bull, for instance, seeking to justify the faith in him after crawling inside of a bottle on Surrey's station, the book is a series of escalations, and unlike the previous two novels, largely confined in its location. It is reminiscent of the famous play No Exit, because if this was Abaddon's Gate, then they are truly trapped in this place together. And the station may have harmed them with the speed change, but they are the real problem for each other. Hell truly is other people here. Humanity and all of its factions were locked in the same room, and this was what emerged. We could come together or fall apart. And it was pride, hate, and fear that caused the latter. Thus, rather than the story shifting around to wherever the action was, much of it is the calm in between those events, waiting for the next catastrophe, the next thing that we do to ourselves. But the real lesson comes in that what is awe-inspiring and powerful is, in fact, dumb. Miller explains that all this stuff, it was all meant to be stupid. It was meant to do what it was told and not decide for itself. The proto-molecule likewise knows in a sense that there is a problem, but can't really comprehend what it is or how to deal with it. It creates Miller because his purpose in life was to solve problems. But this is only in fulfillment of its purpose, which is, despite how awe-inspiring it might have been, is in the end simply to build a road. When it builds a road and no one comes to use it, there's a need to investigate, because the proto-molecule has no other purpose than building this road. And yet, having drawn in so much from thinking beings, from forming around a single sapient mind in the beginning, the idea that this must be solved takes root. In other words, much like the famous image from the Sistine Chapel, but in reverse, mankind touches the greater mind and imbues it, in a sense, with life. As Miller explained to Holden at the end of the book, he was able to shut down the station for good to ensure that no one could mess with it and accidentally cause a problem. But his purpose was never to open the gates for humanity, or even to help humanity out. Even saving all of them was for no reason other than the fact that it allowed Miller to continue his investigation. The answer wasn't found on the station, only more questions. So the creators are gone. What does that mean? And what lies beyond the many, many gates that are left open? Nothing was at the ready to come charging out. Did whatever do this disappear during the past couple billion years? That mystery remains, and will be covered in the next book, Cibola Burn.